Hello friends and fam, enlightened beings, Hardcore Yogi here. So this is a video series about the art of yoga and the art of holistic health, both personally and globally. But given that yoga is the starting point, the most fundamental question to ask is, what is yoga? So that's what I'm going to crack into today. And different yogis may have different answers to this. They may emphasize different parts of yoga. Some yogis may even throw curveballs and give a very counterintuitive answer. So keep in mind that this is just my answer. Parts of it are relative. It's what each person wants to emphasize. But I think some parts of it are universal. So just saying, this may not be the most complete answer to you, but it's pretty complete to me. So what is yoga? My starting point that I want to take here is yoga is not a religion. You could be a Hindu yogi, a Buddhist yogi, a Christian yogi, even somewhat atheist or agnostic as a yogi. Actually, let's scratch out that last part. But what I'm saying is, yoga, although it originated in India, in the Hindu tradition, yoga is not necessarily tied to any religious belief. Rather, yoga is a practical tool. It is a practical system, a set of techniques which aim to connect one to oneself, one's own energy, and also to connect one to God, to connect one to the universal energy and consciousness all around us. It sounds religious, but what I'm saying is it is not specific to any one religion. And in fact, there's not much religious doctrine involved in it. It's very much a practical system of techniques which put you into certain states. So that's the starting point that I want to make. What is yoga? A practical system. Okay. Moving on to what is yoga, here's a definition of yoga. This is the most classical Sanskrit definition because yoga, it comes from the word yog, a Sanskrit word which means to yoke, combine, unite. So yoga means to unite, it means union. Most people in spiritual circles probably know this anyway. So with yoga, what are we unifying? BKS Iyengar, a famous yogi in the late 20th century, I loved one of his statements. He said, with yoga, or in yoga, we unite our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual faculties to align them with our will and the will of God. So yeah, it unites all our faculties, the mind, body, and spirit, our will, and the will of God. It unites those things. So it unites the different parts of us, yet it is also supposed to unite us as an individual soul to the larger soul, to God, to the environment. So yes, yoga is all about unifying, about creating alignment. That is what yoga is. Okay. The next way to address this question, what is yoga? So we've covered it's a practical system. And I would say it's a practical system for purifying and perfecting your own bodily systems, your own mental systems, creating the most harmonious, optimal state within, and then also extending that to finding a peace, a harmony, an optimal relationship with the collective. Now, getting more into the roots, a bit more into the weeds, we can look at the 8 limbs of yoga. So this was first created by Swami Patanjali. Patanjali is a very pivotal sage. He wrote the book, the Yoga Sutras. And he was the first one to really categorize the 8 limbs of yoga. So these are 8 different parts of yoga, 8 different facets of yoga, which a true yogi seeks to develop in all of these, and we do in fact develop in all of these. So they include first the yamas and niyamas. This translates to ethical disciplines and personal disciplines. So in the ethical disciplines, we have things like truthfulness or non-lying, non-violence, non-possessiveness, non-stealing, and moderation. So in short, and you can actually, delve deeper into each of those, into each of the yamas. But yeah, that's YAMAS. So the yamas are ethical disciplines. Don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, don't harm. It's very simple. You treat all others with the utmost kindness. Then niyamas is self-disciplines. These include things like tapas, which is the fiery ambition for life, the zeal to be your best. Tapas. Also santoja, which is contentment. Other things like cleanliness. Yeah, so there's the fiery ambition, the contentment, cleanliness, study of the self, study of the ego mind and your own psyche, study of the self, and study of the divine, study of God. So they are the self-disciplines. Now, I believe moderation can also count as a self-discipline. So that's the starting point of yoga, to have an ethical life and to have your own life orderly. That's a great foundation of yoga. And cleanliness, as I said, is a big one. Cleanliness can mean, cleanliness of your room or your car. I could be better in that. But also cleanliness of the body by purifying the body. Cleanliness of the mind by purifying impure thoughts, thoughts of hatred, etc. Cleanliness is a big virtue in yoga. Cleanliness and purity. So, yeah, that's the yamas and niyamas. Ethical disciplines and self-disciplines. I'll go to the next 2 limbs of yoga. They are asana and pranayama. So asana is postures. The more direct translation of asana is seat. So asana is Sanskrit for seat. So the idea is any posture you're in, whether sitting, standing, etc., the posture is also a seat that you reside in. And the big idea with yoga is you do all these physical postures and they sort of open up the body, they strengthen the body and the spine, and you can then take a seat on the ground, legs crossed. You can take your seat very comfortably, with great stability, with great sustainability. You can take your seat. And that sort of sets us up for some of the next phases of yoga. So the 4th limb of yoga is pranayama. This is essentially breath work. Pranayama refers more to life force energy, or the cultivation of life force energy. It just so happens that the breath is a pivotal way to cultivate that energy. So once we take our seat, asana, we move to pranayama, where we breathe efficiently, effectively. We do a range of different pranayama techniques, which affect our physiology in different ways. You can check out my other video, What is Pranayama, and the benefits of pranayama. And then the 5th limb of yoga is pratyahara. So this means turning the senses within. So often in life, we have our senses going out to all these external objects, especially the phone in modern life, and we sometimes are not even aware of how much this constant external focus, attention, it drains us. Different objects of attention, they drain our focus. But when we withdraw the senses back within, it helps to recharge us. And it gets us into the next phases of yoga also. So after pratyahara, turning the senses within, we have dhyana. Wait. Yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana. Is it dharana or dhyana here? I think it's dharana. So anyway, that means concentration. So what we learn to do in this phase is to place our concentration on a single point. It could be a visual point, a visualization, perhaps the breath, a bodily sensation, a mantra is a good one also. Regardless, even a candle flame, which is a external visual object. Placing our focus on a given point, that is dharana. Then we have dhyana, which is sustained concentration. So it's like if dharana is placing the focus on a single point, dhyana is the sustained flow of that concentration. And then finally, the 8th limb of yoga, we have samadhi. This is meditative absorption. It's when we become so totally absorbed in our meditation that we become the meditation. So yeah, meditative absorption. A few other descriptions of this state is pure joy, pure happiness, a union with all things, a connection to all of life, a pure presence, pure stillness, pure consciousness. And you can get into many mystical, metaphysical descriptions, and such a state is sort of the launch pad to certain mystical states, mystical insights. But essentially, yeah, samadhi is that it is the peak of the meditative experience. It is to find union with the environment, union, from within, without, utter presence and oneness, essentially. And by all means, there can be different flavors of samadhi, but they're all pointing to what I described. So yeah, that is the 8 limbs of yoga. So we have yamas and niyamas, the ethical disciplines and self-disciplines, living an orderly life. Asana and pranayama, which is different postures, the breath work. This helps to cultivate our energy, which gets us into a state for then pratyahara, bring the senses within. Then dharana, we focus it on a single point. Dhyana, we continue the sustained focus on that until finally samadhi, we get absorbed with it, we hit that ping of the true meditative state, true beingness. So yeah, that sums up what yoga is to me. Is there another part of it? I think that's it. So yeah, that would sum it up. It is a system of techniques. Secondly, they are designed to unify our body, mind, and spirit, unify us with the collective, with God's will. And then we use those 8 limbs of yoga. We breathe, we move, we sit, we focus, and we find peace within. That is yoga in a nutshell to me. Obviously, there's many different facets to it, so you can check out my videos for more of these facets. Wishing you much peace and love. Namaste.